Alright, let's now solve for x. The first one there would be easy. It's something that you've done at grade 10 because it has vectors. So first we're going to multiply out. Okay, so we have x times x, which is x squared, x times minus 1, which is minus x, equals to 4 times 3x, this is 12x, and 4 times minus 10 is minus 40. So we're going to try to put this in a standard form because that's what we need to do in order to solve for x. So we're going to transfer everything to the left hand side. It will then be x squared minus x minus 12x plus 40 equals to 0. Okay, the first step, equating the right hand side to 0. So now we have two like terms there. We will then have x squared minus x minus 12x is minus 13x plus 40. This is equals to 0. So let's check. The terms of x squared would be x and x. Of 40, it could be 40 and 1. Let's see if that works. We know that if we have, let's get the bracket, the terms of x will definitely be x and x, nothing else. And then we know that if we have negative in the middle term and positive in the middle term, then both brackets will be negative. So that means the terms of 40, if you multiply them, they should give you a 40. If you add them, then they should give you 13. We see that 40 times 1 will definitely be 40, but then 40 plus 1 is 41, not 13. So 40 and 1 will definitely not work. So the other terms of 40 that we can think of is 8 and 5. Okay, and then also 20 and 2. Okay, with 20 and 2, we're going to have 20x times 2x. 20 plus 2 give you 22. This is not 13. It's rather 22. Let's try out now 8 and 5. Those are the other terms of 40. All right. With 8 and 5, we're going to have x times 8 is 8x. And then x times 5 is 5x. 8 plus 5 is 13. That's what we are looking for. So that means the terms we are looking for 40 is 8 and 5. Okay, we have equals to 0. So the terms will be 8 and 5. And then the next step will then to say 8 minus x minus 8 equals to 0. Or x minus 5 is equals to 0. Therefore, your x would then be equals to 8 if we transfer negative 8 to the right hand side, or x is equals to positive 5. This is easy. This you've done in grade 10. So now let's come to the next one. The next one is 2x squared minus 3x minus 4. Let's think of the terms now. The terms of 2x squared will be 2x and x. And then that of 4 will be 4 and 1. Let's see if this works. So since now the first one is a negative and the last one is a positive, the other bracket will be negative and the other bracket will be positive. So that means if we subtract the terms of 4 and 2x squared, we should get minus 3. Is that the case here? If we say 2x times 4, we get 8x, and then x times 1 is an x. Okay, 8x minus x is 7x, not that 3x there. Okay, we're not getting minus 3x, so 4 and 1, they don't work. And then what if we cross multiply them? Let's see. 2x times 1 will give us 2x, and then 4 times x will then give us 4x. 4x minus 2x gives us 2x. It's still not 3x. So 4 and 1 definitely, they don't work. What other terms of 4 can we think of? If it's not 4 and 1, it can only be 2 and 2. 2 times 2 gives you a 4. So let's see if 2 and a 2 works. So if now we have 2 and a 2 for 4, for 2x squared can only be 2x and x. Okay, 2x times 2 is 4x. And then 2x times 2 is 2x. 2x minus 4x, that gives us 2x, not 3x. Even if you cross multiply, it's still going to be 4x minus 2x. So this equation does not have factors. So that's when we get to complete the square or use the quadratic formula. Notice I said or. If the instruction of the question on your test or exam does not specify that you should complete the square, then it's your choice whether you're going to complete the square or use the quadratic formula. All right, let's suppose that it said complete the square. So what's the first thing that we check if we are completing the square is that it's a 0 on the right hand side, so we are happy. The next thing that we need to check is that x squared does not have a coefficient. In our case, it does have a coefficient. So then next, we're going to get rid of that coefficient by dividing everywhere by the coefficient. So we're going to have 2x squared divided by 2. This is x squared. And then minus 3 over 2x. Minus 4 divided by 2 will give us minus 2. 0 divided by 2 is 0. All right. So remember, next we are interested in the coefficient of x, right? So what do we do with it? We take it, we divide by 2, and then we square that. So we're going to say 3 over 2 divided by 2. Okay, sorry. And then we square that quotient. So this is the same as 3 over 2. We change that division, we say multiply, and then the reciprocal of 2 is now 1 over 2. So this is going to be 3 over 4. We need to remember to square this. So what are we going to do with that? We took 3 over 2, we divided it by 2, and then we got 3 over 4, and then we square that. So remember, we're going to add and subtract it from the equation. Okay? So then we're going to have x squared minus 3 over 2x. What do we do after this second term? We add and subtract this. All right. 3 squared would be 9. And then 4 squared is 16. We have to subtract that in order to stabilize that equation. So it's like adding a 0. We still have minus 2 from here, and then we have equals to 0. And then we're just going to simplify. All right. So just remember, it's important that you add first and then subtract. The negative one is the one that's going to go to the right hand side. Okay, factorizing this is now easy. It will always be bracket squared, and then we have the sign of the middle term here. Square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 9 over 16 is 3 over 4. Everything else goes to the right hand side. So now we're going to have plus 9 over 16 plus 2. All right. So taking square root on both sides in order to offset that square, we will then have x minus 3 over 4 equals to, let's make this one fraction. This would be 16. 16 divided by 16 is 1. 1 times the numerator 9 is 9. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and then, sorry, 16 divided by 1, because this is the same as over 1. 16 divided by 1 is 16, and then that 16 times by the numerator 2 is 32. All right, we're almost there. So we're now going to transfer minus 3 over 4 to the right hand side. We have x equals to positive 3 over 4. And then since this is a square root, it will be plus or minus. All right. And then the square root of 32 plus 9 is 41. 41 is not a perfect square, so we'll leave it as is. But 16 is a perfect square. So square root of 16 is 4. All right. But what if we were not asked to do this by completing the square? All right. We're going to get there. And then we will use the calculator to get the true values of x. With using a quadratic formula, which we derived in the previous video by completing the square. If you remember, that quadratic formula was x equals to minus b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. All right, so let's check. We had 2x squared minus 3x minus 4. So a is the coefficient of x squared, minus 3 is b, the coefficient of x, and the constant minus 4 is your c. So we're going to substitute those values into the quadratic formula. So now let's substitute. We have x equals to, our b is minus 3. So we're going to have minus 3. So it's minus of the formula and minus that comes with the 3. Minus square root of b squared, we have minus 3 as a b, so we have minus 3 squared, minus 4, our a is 2, and c is minus 4, all over 2, a is a 2. This will be equals to negative times negative 3 is positive 3, and then this is a plus or minus here from the formula. Plus or minus square root of minus 3 squared is 9, and then minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. Minus 8 times minus 4 is plus 32 over 2 times 2 is a 4. You will see at this stage that they are the same. You will notice at this stage that substituting into a quadratic formula, it's much quicker than completing the square. I repeat, if a question is not specific in solving for x by completing the square, then I think it would be advisable to just go and substitute into the quadratic formula. But if now they are specific in saying by completing the square, then you will have to follow these steps. If it wasn't specific, it's your personal choice whether you want to complete the square or not. But by personal choice, my personal choice would be to go straight into completing, into substituting into a formula. All right. So let's find the true values of x now. So x would be equals to, I need a calculator. So we're going to first have 3 over 4 plus root 41 over 4, the plus part now. So that will be, okay, 3 divided by 4 plus, okay. So I'm just on the calculator now. Okay, the first one is x is equals to 2.35. Normally you have to leave the answer in 2 decimal digits after a comma, so this would be 5. Or if now we say 3/4 minus root 41/4, we are considering the minus part now, that will be, come back on the calculator, so this gives us x is equals to minus 0.85. It's just a matter of using a calculator there. So remember, we had 2x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals to 0. So if we say solve for x, and then you can't find the factors of that thing, if you're not told which method to use, then it's your personal choice. Then you decide whether to complete the square or to use a quadratic formula. Okay, you will see that if you were not told which method to use, by going straight to the quadratic formula would be much quicker than completing the square. Your a will be the coefficient of x squared, your b would be the coefficient of x, and then your c would be the constant. You just substitute into the formula, use a calculator, and get your x values. If you are completing the square, you need to make sure first that your x squared does not have a coefficient. You will then see that I first started by dividing everywhere by that 2, getting x squared minus 3/2x minus 2 is equals to 0. Then you're going to take the coefficient of x divided by 2 and then square, and then it ends up being 9/16. You add that 9/16 and minus it. So that is the same as adding a 0. So you didn't balance the equation. So the negative part and the constant you take to the right hand side and you factorize this part, which will always be bracket squared. Square root of x, square root of 9/2, and the sign of the middle term in between. And it's just a matter of simplifying, and then you would get your x values. All right, in terms of this one, this is a homework for you. Decide for yourself, if the question didn't say complete the square, are you going to complete the square, or are you going to go straight to the quadratic formula? That would be your personal choice. But if the question was specific and it said complete the square, do remember that you're going to have to divide everywhere by -3 first. So that means you're going to have -7/3 as the coefficient of x. Then you would have to divide that by 2 and then square it. It will then give you 49. I think it's 49/36, if I'm not mistaken, after dividing it by 2 and then squaring it. So you will then add that and then subtract it from the equation, so that you can take the other ones on the right hand side, and then you leave 49/36, the positive one, on the right hand side, and then you take it from here downwards. Whether you substituted straight to the quadratic equation or you completed the square, you're going to find the same answers. So if you substitute straight into the equation, this would be your a, the coefficient of x squared. -3 is a, 7 is your b, and then -4 is your c. So that is your homework. Decide whether you want to complete the square to get to the answer, or if you are, or do it both ways, just for practice. Complete the square and get your answers, and then substitute into the quadratic formula. You should be getting the same answers. So if you don't get the same answers, you made a mistake in one of them. But remember, on your tests or exams for grade 11, they will either specify if you should complete the square, or they just say solve for x, then it's your choice which method to make use of. All right.